ready?
Hey, it's Andrew here at Vespa Portland with a video that is a little bit late. We did this ride about a month ago. So it's late June 2020 and I'm finally getting around to editing this. Everybody knows the last 4 months have been a wild ride. There's no real need to delve into all that again, but just some of us at the shop were itching for a nice long ride to clear our minds with everything that's been going on. Danny wore a GoPro on the top of his helmet and he rode mostly at the back of the group. So when you see a lot of bikes in the frame, that's Danny's camera. And I, of course, have the GoPro mounted on the right side of my helmet. You've seen it before in other videos, but I'm in the front of the group leading the ride. In the power sports industry, our weekend is Sunday and Monday. And Mondays make for perfect ride days since there's low crowds, there's low traffic, and pretty much everything is open. So we floated the idea to each other, and then we were lucky enough to catch a sunny and warm Monday in the forecast. So we set our sights on the Oregon coast, we loaded up the Vespas for a day trip to Astoria, and we headed out. We just did a quick and easy south on MLK to the Morrison Bridge, and then we headed north on I-5 to the Fremont Bridge, and then onto Highway 30. You could get away with, if you're not a big fan of the freeway or that Fremont Bridge, which is kind of windy, you can cut through downtown, but we were just trying to save ourselves some time. So from there, we just headed north on Highway 30 to Linton, just north of Portland. It's a little tiny town. There's a gas station, a few bars, a few restaurants. One of the best ones is the Lighthouse, if you ever get over there. They have good breakfast, good lunch, nice little atmosphere, and Spring Scoot 24 Sunday breakfast was actually hosted there. We just grabbed some gas, and then we moved on. $3.10. If you have a scooter, you know. So there were 5 of us that went on the ride. I was on my gray Vespa GTS 300 SuperTech. JP was on his red Vespa GTS. I think it's a 300, might be a 250. And Pedro was on a traded-in wine red GTS 300 Touring. Danny was on his Vespa Sprint 150. It's the blue bike. And Matt was riding my white Vespa Primavera 150. So just 150cc to 300cc scooters. More than enough for a little 200-mile day trip. Further up Highway 30, you're of course going to pass Sauvie Island. Pretty much everybody's been there in Portland. But between that point and Scappoose, there's not a lot going on Highway 30. It's just a necessary evil of a road you got to get through. And once we arrived into Scappoose, we just made a left on the Scappoose-Vernonia Highway, which is a really fun road. And on a Monday, it was all ours. Stopping in Vernonia for a snack, a stretch, or to get some gas is a really good idea if you take this route, since this was the last gas station until Astoria. Anybody need gas or anything?
It's still on full.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Legit. Because we're like 60-something miles to the coast now.
Exactly what here they are.
You want to just do a little lap through there?
Yeah, show us the way.
Captain
Andrew?
I'm no Vernonia pro, dude. All right. If I remember correctly, a few of the guys hadn't been to Vernonia before, so we just took a quick lap up and down the main drag and then got back on the road. What you should know about Vernonia, if you've never been here or you're watching and you don't live in Oregon, is that Vernonia is a small town, roughly halfway to Astoria on this route, and it's the heart of one of the most important timber-producing areas in Oregon. Other claims to fame are that it's the site of the TV show Axemen, and it's been in a few movies dating back to 1961's Ring of Fire, all the way up to twilight in 2008. If you visit, there's a good selection of restaurants on this main street, but the Black Iron Grill is a personal favorite. It's 62 miles from Vernonia to Astoria, following Highway 47 and then veering left onto Highway 202. If you're on a modern Vespa, getting some gas in Vernonia will ensure that you will make it all the way to Astoria with plenty of miles to spare. Just remember, if you do this ride, there are no gas stops from this point on to the coast on this route, so plan accordingly. Eventually, we got caught up in a paving project, which had us sitting around for 15 to 20 minutes before we could get going. All right. Paving project going on 47, so we've been stopped here for probably 10 minutes so far. Some guys on motorcycles, pretty chill. Just waiting to get on. We're probably 9 miles away from Mist, where we go left.
How do you like the Ducati? Okay, but it doesn't try to kill me.
JP and Pedro shot ahead with the two guys on motorcycles, just roasting through the turns, and eventually Danny, Matt, and I caught up with them waiting for us on the side of the road. Little roadside stop. It was a good moment to stop, stretch, and pee on the poison oak just off the side of the road. Remember, if it has 3, leave it be. On Highway 202, the small towns on the map come and go in the blink of an eye. Mist and Jewel, which both look like they might have something to see, turn out to be little more than a couple houses, a barn, maybe a church, and a truck repair shop. Somewhat surprisingly, the road is basically perfect. The pavement is smooth, it's consistent, all the way through to the coast, despite the heavy log trucks that are traversing this all the time and the snow and ice that this area can get in the winter. It's really just a soothing ride with a lot of trees and nice turns and things to see. Continuing on Highway 202, we were hoping to see some elk walking around at Jewel Meadows, but there were none. Sometimes you can see 1 or 2 on up to dozens out there. In any case, wildlife is around out here, and it's around in broad daylight, so keep your eyes peeled. There's also a handful of state parks and county parks you can stop at along the way on this highway. 62 miles later, we arrived in Astoria, and the guys who got gas way back in Linton filled up, and then we headed into town to find something to eat.
Definitely been to this many more at 1 a.m.
Astoria had just entered Phase 1 reopening about a week or 2 prior, so we were going to be able to actually sit inside a restaurant if we wanted to. We attempted to stop at Fort George Brewing, but they were doing reservations only, and at noon on a Monday, they had nothing available until like 7 p.m.
Good enough. I'm sure they can take our food and go up to the tower.
Oh, yeah.
All the way up there? Or we can go to the waterfront.
So we just left the bikes parked out by their place, and then we walked down to Astoria Brewing on the waterfront and found a table inside near this big roll-up garage door, which was essentially like eating outside. This was our first restaurant experience since the shutdown in March, and it was simultaneously so weird to be back inside of a restaurant, but also so great. After lunch, we walked around a little bit, but most things were still closed, obviously. We stopped by Monk Tiki to say hello. Monk Tiki is the nation's largest tiki mug design and production house, and they're actually building a tiki bar next door to themselves called Dead Man's Isle. Someday that's going to be a really fun place to spend some time. But for now, you just get to peek in the windows and dream of what will be. We didn't plan much of this ride, so after lunch it was all up in the air. So Danny decided to take the lead and took us up into the hills toward the Astoria column. On the way up there, we spotted a few raccoons running across people's yards in the middle of the day, which was a surprise. And once we were almost to the column, we decided we'd skip it because paying $5 per scooter to see essentially the same view as we had up on the hillside didn't seem like the greatest idea. So we headed back down the hills through the city and over the bridge toward Warrenton to go check out the remains of the Peter Iredale shipwreck, which is washed up on the beach.
The beach, you know? Yeah. It's like right down there. I don't really want to risk a $1,200 ticket myself. I don't really feel like that either. It's really illegal to drive there, so we can just drive on the beach for a minute. Okay. Let me, hold on, let me get my thing on. Oh yeah, it's just a little further down, huh?
Danny knew of a beach just a bit south that we could get onto easily, so we meandered down some frontage roads and then ended up on Highway 101 South. The beach is called Sunset Beach, and we were able to ride right up to it. Danny actually took off toward the water on his scooter, but eventually he got stopped by some thick sand at the entrance. So we parked and walked down there and watched large trucks race back and forth across the sand, trying not to get stuck. It was all going well until this lady in this car that had no business being in the sand in the first place attempted to cross. And she got stuck real quick and then just sat there spinning her tires, making the problem even worse. We helped out a bit, but there was nothing we could really do until this couple in a large pickup truck ended up driving by and pulled her out with a tow strap.
Made it to the ocean.
Hey, Andrew.
How exciting. Oh.
From there, we walked around the beach a little bit, snapped some pictures, and then headed back toward the scooters. Once on those, we had a little group photo taken, and then we headed north again on Highway 101, back toward Astoria, where we topped off gas once again before taking the more direct and faster route back to Portland on Highway 30.
Feel free to lead it, whoever.
If we had more time, we could have crossed the super windy bridge that connects Astoria to Washington State and then taken Washington's Highway 4 all the way back to Longview, or to the last remaining vehicle ferry in that part of the Columbia River where it drops you off back on the Oregon side on Highway 30. But it was already late in the day, and we just wanted to get the quick way home. We left Portland around 9:30 a.m. and got back a little bit after 8 p.m. And the ride was 240 miles as far as Google says, but that doesn't account for the little side tours we did. So we probably did 260-ish miles, I would say, for the day. But with all the stops, it really felt like nothing. And even Highway 30 felt like it went by faster than usual. As expected, the Vespas performed flawlessly throughout the miles and the elevation gain. No issues whatsoever. They kept right up. Even the 150cc scooters kept up with the 300s. If anything could have made the ride better, it would have just been to be able to stay the night, either in Astoria or at the beach, and just really relax. But we'll have to save that for another day. So hopefully this video inspires you to go ride, alone or with friends, or to maybe attempt a ride that's a little out of your comfort zone, be it on roads that are more curvy than you're used to or higher speed than you're used to, or to a destination further away that you may have only considered driving to. It is super satisfying to show up to a place on a scooter. And it's even more satisfying to show up to a place that you don't often go to or you didn't think you could get to. So until next time, stay safe out there and enjoy your rides wherever you may end up. This is Andrew at Vespa Portland. Adios.